1077 TheBronc and 1077TheBronc.com, proudly ranked the best college radio station in New Jersey by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association. Live from the Killarney's Public House Studios. Welcome, everybody. It is 4:03. You're listening to the Political Roundup. I'm Tommy Franks. Welcome, everybody, here today. Okay, a lot happened last week. I'm going to try and get to it as much as I can because there's more I want to get to this hour. So I wanted to say something briefly on the whole Saudi Arabia issue. And to brief, Jamal Khashoggi, the columnist, now late columnist of the Washington Post, was killed by the Saudi government. At least our CIA founded that, and the president was supposed to, condemn that, and he basically put out a statement saying the Saudi Arabia is too important of an ally. This came on the day after, I believe on Tuesday, the day after this show finished, and I was pretty shocked by that, because look at our relationship with the Saudis. Okay, we have an arms deal with them. We also have the issue of oil. We get a lot of oil from the Saudis. They need us more than we need them, essentially. To put this briefly. And it would not hurt if the President of the United States could condemn the Saudi leaders and actually side with his intelligence, with his intelligence agencies. It would look better, at least for him, and at least for his critics. So I tend to say, you know what? I think it would have been right to condemn that of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. But he refused to do that, and it sounds like he will not renege that at all. Okay, there's also the rally tonight for Cindy Hyde-Smith, the senator from Mississippi. We could possibly have a Senate just the same as it is now, as far as the count, if this doesn't go right in Missouri for Republicans. I do think Cindy Hyde-Smith will win, but just to give you a brief of what's happening. The race was too tight, so now it's going into a runoff. Cindy Hyde-Smith was making a comment on a public hanging comment or pro-Confederate comment. And then what happened was, this sparked outrage in the public, and her opponent and her are now in a tight runoff. She is the incumbent senator in Missouri, and Trump is going to a rally for her tonight, basically because she has an R next to her name, and Trump needs all the Republicans he can in the Senate. This is vitally important to his agenda. If she loses in Missouri, that's going to be very shocking for Republicans, and it's going to only show that they have an uphill battle from here in 2020 to win some congressional seats, and even further, you're looking at Senate seats and even the presidency. You got to look at all that stuff for Trump's reelection. And it is interesting because Trump is now, he hasn't formally publicly addressed Hyde-Smith except for endorsing her further. But at the same time, he's also saying, I'm going to shut down the border, the southern border. This is because of the whole migrant caravan issue. Now, why are we all outraged about this? Why are the people that criticize the president on a consistent basis outraged about this? Well, it's simple. Because it's a simple outrage because Trump is very rhetorically very strong on this, and it fires people up. But why should we be outraged about this at the same time? Or his critics, rather. Because it has been a campaign promise, he said. He's been talking about for a very long time, threatening about shutting down the southern border. Should we have big problems like this? He has said this numerous times. He would do whatever's necessary with the border. So why are his critics all of a sudden like, oh my God, what's happening? This was expected. I'm not surprised he's doing this. Certainly, I am not. This should not be any shock to any of us. It's worth mentioning that Mexico does not support this, obviously. But they are getting a new administration starting this Saturday with the new socialist president getting into office. And Enrique Nieto, I believe, the president of Mexico, will be leaving And this also coming, the big busy weeks coming up for the president. He's got the G20 showdown too, with Putin and the Chinese especially. The Chinese is going to be a big one because I'm going to talk later in the show about tariffs and how is that really having a negative impact? Nothing really positive about it. This is going to be a big issue to discuss at the G20, I would imagine, because now you got Trump and the tariffs coming down on the Chinese, and the Chinese throwing us back retaliatory tariffs. But the issue here is Trump is, from where he stands, he's waiting it out for the Chinese to come to the table with these tariffs being such a hit on their economy. They're taking a massive hit in the stock market, especially. Have you seen the Chinese stocks? They're down tremendously. And this is going to be definitely discussed, I would imagine. But I don't know about a formal new trade deal, which Trump that's his ultimate goal here. So I don't know if he's eventually going to get there to that point. But that is the goal in the long run here, is to get that done. Because we do have a trade deficit with China, and Trump has been saying this, I believe, from the day he announced his campaign. So that will be very interesting as well for the G20. That would be the main meeting, I would say, is very important to us as a country. So, and also, the Mueller report will be coming very shortly. Now, we mentioned last week something about the speculation that the report would be coming very soon because Trump is filing written answers to Mueller's questions. In that case, why not? It might end. However, Alan Dershowitz went on a ABC Sunday show yesterday. He's asked about the potential Mueller report coming out. Now, Dershowitz is a frequent Trump defender, and as far as legality is concerned, I don't think policy so much. But he says, quote, the Mueller report will be damning. It's going to hurt the president. So really? I mean, I would imagine, just like anybody else, because of all the leaks coming out of Mueller's office, if I can analyze this fairly, out of Mueller's office, all the leaks coming out of there, if they had something on Trump, they would have had it out by now. Certainly before the midterm elections, would they not have? All of a sudden, Mueller is going to write out this report that's very damaging to the president? I don't know. I don't buy it. It's the politics of it is very odd if Mueller were to put out something detrimentally horrible to the president. I don't see that being a benefit in any way, shape, or form. So that's that. And I don't know where it goes from here, but we do know, based on a report yesterday, that a federal judge has rejected George Papadopoulos' bid to delay a prison sentence. So now, to give you a brief from the other day, Papadopoulos was ordered to begin his sentencing in prison. So I believe he's in prison now, and they're trying to work out, I guess, a plea deal, or I don't know what's going to happen with Papadopoulos. But he is one of the members here that Mueller was going after for. And remember, the original, what Mueller's actually going after here is supposed to be whether Trump colluded with Russia or not, or conspired against the United States with Russia to influence the election. That has yet to be proven based on intelligence. I should mention that. However, there are a lot of indictments, and Papadopoulos is now in prison. Manafort's serving, but I think he's working out a plea deal if he hasn't already. You have a lot of people going to prison and getting charged, especially that big day in August with Cohen and who had nothing to do with the whole Russia. Well, actually, he did with the Don Jr. meeting. It was so to speak. But the rest of it's dangerous for the people outside the president. But I don't think the president will be very harmed by the report from Mueller. So that's that as far as that goes. So I don't know where it goes from here. Going to the House, Nancy Pelosi is potentially, I should say actually, she's going to win the speakership for the Democrat majority in the House. That's quite obvious, you know. She has a lot of influence in there. She's been in there a very long time from California. And originally, it looked like she had a lot of opposition, you know, from the Democrats, the progressive, the far progressive wing of the party, not just, you know, your typical progressives. We're talking postmodernist like. And now Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, you know, was protesting outside of Nancy Pelosi's house, or I'm sorry, her office, and Marcia Fudge from Ohio publicly saying that she would never support Nancy Pelosi. And now both of them say they're on board. Ocasio-Cortez basically saying, you know, if she's progressive enough, I'm going to support those progressive causes. We are all in. That says a lot now about today's Democrat Party, doesn't it? I mean, look at the people that got elected, such as Ocasio-Cortez, into Congress. They're very, very progressive and consider themselves socialist, or as they say, democratic socialists. So if Nancy Pelosi is going to win those people over, she's got a lot of power. But the question is, can they unify? Now, the vote will be taken very soon, or I should say, or when again in January 3rd, very shortly into their terms. And there's already, I believe the number was 17 last week. I think it's still there. 17 of the Democrats that got elected to Congress vowed to not support Pelosi for the speakership. Never. Like they wrote a letter and they said, we're never supporting Nancy Pelosi for speaker. It's not happening. They'll stay on, but that means they have, a 40-seat majority, something like that? Bigger than what the Republicans have right now. Even if 17 votes say no, you just got to get the further left progressives and democratic socialists, so to speak, to support Nancy Pelosi, and I think she's going to do just that. You know, it's interesting. All of a sudden, and Ocasio-Cortez having these protests and all this stuff outside her office, that was kind of crazy, and she made a big deal about it on social media. Now, all of a sudden, it's, I support Nancy Pelosi. Man, how did she work her so quick? I want to know what Ocasio-Cortez got in return for that, because that's how politics works. You know, you get returns for that kind of stuff. Everyone, it's negotiating. It's a whole deal making atmosphere in politics. That's how it is. Ocasio-Cortez has been in the news this week, not to get far off topic from what I'm currently talking about, but she literally was talking about the caravan coming in right now. And you know what she compared it to? She compared it to the Jewish fleeing Nazi Germany during the Holocaust. Wow. She took to Twitter to denounce the treatment of the caravan members. Asking to be considered a refugee and applying for status isn't a crime, she wrote. It wasn't for Jewish families fleeing Germany. It wasn't for targeted families fleeing Rwanda. It wasn't for communities fleeing war-torn Syria. And it isn't for those fleeing violence in Central America, she wrote. That is crazy. But, you know, she's as progressive as they come. And if you're living in in her district, which is generally lower income, most of those people will vote for her if you say free this, free that, everything's free. You know, people are going to vote for you if you support those causes because they're lower income. That's how it works. But get back to what I was talking about here, the Democrat Party is shifting further left, and here's an example of that. So Bernie Sanders, who you're all familiar with, senator from Vermont, he is very, famous for free this, free that, all that stuff, just like Ocasio-Cortez is. They're basically the same person, except one has a lot more power than the other. Bernie comes out with this Medicare for all bill, which, to give you a brief on it, it is literally giving every single person, you, me, and 300 million Americans, free health insurance. Now, just imagine, I don't want to figure the healthcare cost of every person. I don't know that. Like every year. It varies. But take that number, an average, and multiply that by about 300 million. What is your federal debt going to go down to? Because you're not going to be able to pay for all of that. If you were to write a Medicare for all bill, and you got that passed, do you know how incredibly damaging that would be to our federal debt? I mean, the number came out from it was a libertarian-funded think tank who got the number of, I believe, $30 trillion, somewhere around there, $30 to $40 trillion, somewhere in that range for so-called Medicare for all. Basically, Medicare is only allowed for those who are 65 or older, I believe, because my grandparents are on it. I know how Medicare works as far as the basics of it. But Medicare for every single American? The idea of Medicare is the government pays for your health care. For at least a large majority of it, if not all of it, depending. And Bernie originally, when he wrote this bill, he had about, 0 co-sponsors. He had 0 co-sponsors for Medicare for all. Now, he's got about 16, I believe, co-sponsors. 16. I'm going to read you those senators. These are the senators that are typical, and some of these senators I'm going to talk about the next segment that are going to be running for the presidency. You mark my words, some of these people. Number 1, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. Elizabeth Warren, no doubt there, of Massachusetts. Tom Udall from New Mexico. Gene Sheehan from New Hampshire. Brian Schatz of Hawaii. Jeff Merkley of Oregon. Ed Markey of Massachusetts. Pat Leahy from Vermont. Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. Martin Heinrich from New Mexico. Kamala Harris from California. Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. The former Senator Al Franken from Minnesota. Cory Booker, our senator here in New Jersey. Richard Blumenthal in Connecticut. And Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. All of those people that I just named are supporting this. They are supporting Medicare for all. Compare that to 0. He had basically nobody, except for maybe Elizabeth Warren. Now you got 16. The fact that they didn't come out the year before Bernie's proposal, before Bernie's second proposal, that meant, they were typically looked at as a liberal party. Now, they're looked at as a very progressive party, and that's why, they're not afraid to come out in support of this. This is crazy. But I want to talk about Trump's competition here coming up. It's going to be interesting. I want to get an idea of who is running, who's going to run, I think, and who has the best shots, who is, going to have the best chance of beating Trump, and we're going to try to eliminate some names in the process too. So we're going to do all of that when we come back. You are listening to 107.7 The Bronc and 107.7TheBronc.com. We'll be right back. 107.7 The Bronc and 107.7TheBronc.com. Live from the Killarney's Public House Studios. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. So I have a list here for 2020. Who's going to run against Donald Trump? I want to provide a little bit on this because the midterm election is over, and now all of a sudden it is time for campaigning season for 2020, funding and donating, all that stuff. And the campaign begins just about this month, or if not right after Christmas. So we're going to go through some prominent people that could possibly run against the president, who is obviously up for re-election in 2020. And I want to provide some insight and see who's got a shot. A speculatory insight. It's speculatory. We don't know anything. Poll numbers mean absolutely nothing at the moment. So we'll have to see about those. But we're going to start with the list right now. I figure we can go from top to bottom here on the list. So let's start with this. Bernie Sanders, obviously. So Bernie Sanders is a little older, obviously. If Sanders were to run in 2020, he would be 79 years old. If he were to win, he'd be 79 years old when he takes office. He is focused on his re-election this year, which he won. But he is one of the favorites of the Democrats on the progressive side of the Democrats, at least. That is obvious because a lot of the Democrats favored him over Hillary Clinton, which caused a lot of controversy for the primary. Bernie, in my opinion, is the closest, or one of the closest you'll get to beating Trump, but yet I do not think a democratic socialist, a self-described democratic socialist, cannot win a presidential election. I could be wrong, but I don't think it will happen. Joe Biden, I think he has the best shot. I'll tell you why. He's been in office how many years? In public service, I should say, how many years? He's at least 20, 30 years, maybe even longer. He's obviously a former vice president to Barack Obama. He is considered a liberal, in my view. He's not, too far left. I think when it comes down to his core beliefs, I think he's center left. I think he's a good candidate for the Democrats to run because that way every Democrat can get behind him. Biden is going to be an older one, though, which is also something key to look at here. Trump is 71 years old, technically young compared to these guys, but Trump is still the oldest president we've had in history. That's a fact. Biden would be 78, not too far off from Bernie. Biden didn't run in 2016, so I don't know if he'd run for office in 2020, given his age. That would be something, obviously, he'd have to think about. But the Democrats are going to be running a bunch of people, and certainly some will run that are not Democrats will run as independents. Another one here, Kirsten Gillibrand. Nah, she's a New York senator. I don't think she's got the name recognition enough. When you run for the presidency, you typically do it for name recognition initially. You do it to get popular and get people to recognize you. Look what Bernie Sanders did. I don't think anyone knew who Bernie Sanders was until he ran for the Democratic primary against Hillary. And then everyone figured out who he was. And he became extremely famous among the party. Next one, Elizabeth Warren. Now, she ruled out the opportunity of running. She said, I'm not going to run for office. I'm going to stay a senator in Massachusetts. She just won her re-election. Now, she is around the same age as Donald Trump, sort of. But actually, just a few years off. But she would be 71 on Inauguration Day in 2021. Something also to look at. She's another favorite among the progressives. It is going to be very hard, though, for liberal people most people on the left, I think, to side with her. But also something to consider here is they're running against Donald Trump, who the Democrats, all join in saying we don't like him. So it's going to be very hard to predict who will win against Trump, who has the best shot. All right, next one. Cory Booker in New Jersey. I don't know. I think all of these senators, because the next one's Kamala Harris on this list, I should just say that. The way you should look at this is, I know they're definitely going to run, even though they say they might not. I think they definitely will. Cory Booker was in Iowa a month and a half ago, after the Kavanaugh thing went down. And he gave a big speech to everyone. Cory Booker, I don't think will have a shot, quite frankly, at winning a Democratic primary if you got Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders in there. Now, he does have some recognition. He's been a senator there for a while. And the way he handled himself during the Kavanaugh hearing, the public did not take very kindly to the way the Democrats treated Kavanaugh. That's just a fact. Public polling. That's just how it went down. I don't know if it would make that big of an impact. Booker is younger. He's around 48 years old. He has called Kirstjen Nielsen, the Homeland Security Secretary, complicit with Trump after Nielsen said she didn't hear Trump saying that the United States shouldn't accept immigrants from you-know-what countries. Remember what he said. That's when Cory Booker really ratcheted up the rhetoric. So I don't know if he's got a shot. Kamala Harris of California. She just got elected to the Senate. She's been a former prosecutor in California. Don't think she'll have a big chance. Now, although she is one of the front runners, at beating Trump, I don't think she can do it. I think Trump is much stronger than her in debate. And if you look at Kamala Harris, now she is, becoming very fast a very prominent Democrat. So, and she is only, I should say, 53 years old. She will be interesting to watch, but she really generated national attention after she was cut off from questioning a witness at the Senate Intelligence Committee hearings back in February of 2018, this year. So she has acknowledged, we'll see what happens after the midterms. That's what she said before the election. Maybe she'll run, maybe she won't. I tend to think she will, for sure. She's got the recognition. She's got California behind her because she's been elected to the Senate. She's been an attorney general there. She's got a decent recognition amongst the public. Next one. These are kind of out of left field, but Oprah Winfrey. Nah, she's not going to do it. Eric Holder, attorney general, former attorney general, I should say. He's the one who said, referencing Michelle Obama, if that we go low, we go high thing, and he corrected and said, no. When they go low, we kick them. That's what he said. And that's how he's been negatively recognized in the past month. So, no, I don't think he will have a shot at beating Donald Trump. Most certainly not. Also, with Eric Holder having the Fast and Furious scandal on him, I think Trump would slam that home just like he did with the Hillary email thing. That's how he won the election. He went after her heavy on that. He would go after Eric Holder the same way, except on Fast and Furious. That'd be the first thing I would think of if I were Donald Trump. But it's going to be easy for all these Democrats to go after Trump because it's easy to get the Democratic base to turn out in 2020. Julian Castro, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary. Nah, he's a former Obama. He's an Obama alumni, meaning he served on Obama's cabinet. But I don't think he's got a shot really. He doesn't have the name recognition. If he does run, it would be for the name recognition. So I don't know. Maybe. Martin O'Malley, former governor. No way. If you couldn't win in 2016 against Hillary and Bernie, no way he's got a shot. He ran in a field of 3 Democratic candidates in the primary back in 2016. Now there's going to be like 30. He's got no shot. John Delaney, Democrat of Maryland, congressman. Yeah, he gained recognition for saying that he was literally the first person besides Donald Trump to announce that he'd be running as a Democrat against him in 2020. So he became the first declared candidate of 2020 back in July of 2017. He will be retiring, however, in Maryland. And he put up his first ads of the primaries in Iowa back in last summer and beginning into 2018. Luis Gutierrez, who just retired, who is going to retire from Congress. I don't know. Maybe he's big on immigration. I know he's very passionate on that issue, which also Trump won on. So that would be an interesting presidential debate if that were to happen. But I don't think Gutierrez can get past the other Democrats. Tom Steyer. This is for those who don't know, he is a mega donor to the Democrats. And he is 60 years old. He ruled out running for office in 2018, but he really ratcheted up the money for the ads on the impeach Trump stuff. So Steyer has recognition from that. He's been calling for Trump's impeachment numerous times, making these accusations that Trump has committed 9 high crimes and misdemeanors, and urging Democrats to impeach him, and as many Republicans as possible. John Kerry, if he couldn't win in 2004, he's not going to win now. And I don't think he has a positive career in the State Department after 2015, the way he negotiated with the Iranians among Republicans. Democrats, he can get a base to turn out. Any Democrat will get the base to turn out, as long as they don't support Trump. So that's going to be easy. Terry McAuliffe, Clinton 2.0. I don't think he does it. He's a former Virginia governor. I don't think he can do it, but he is good at fundraising. He's very good at that. I don't think he's going to get recognition by the Democrats as far as the base goes, getting the nomination, because he's just a Clinton 2.0. And the Democrats learned from 2 years ago that you can't have a Clinton as the nominee. Chris Murphy, Senator of Connecticut. He also sworn off a bid in 2020, but he has been big on gun control. One of his top issues. Do I think he can win a primary? No. He'll get more recognition. All these Democrats, all 36 of these Democrats, or 30, whoever it is, it's going to be a high number, will get recognition. Mayor Bill de Blasio. I can tell you from the Democrats that I know, personally, they do not like Bill de Blasio. He has been considered a socialist, a communist, some would say. He's a pretty left-leaning, to say the least, mayor of New York. And I don't know if he's got a lot of popularity in the Democrat base. Just, I don't see it. And literally 28% of the people in New York turned out to vote for him. That's it. The turnout was literally 28% back in 2017. Tim Kaine, Senator of Virginia, who just got reelected, no way. He had Hillary right next to him in 2016. He has no shot. Andrew Cuomo of New York, the governor. Now, he's the one who made that comment about America was never great. That right there was the end. I thought he had a shot. I thought he was okay as far as Democratic policies. But when he came out and said that, I knew he was done. He's shot. He can stay the governor. I think he'll be fine at that. He'll keep getting reelected. He just got reelected, I believe. But, he'll be fine, for sure. Next one. Mark Cuban. Kind of out of left field, but kind of not out of left field. He's kind of like Trump is as far as net worth and wealth and being a business guy, things like that. He's big on Shark Tank. That's how I guess he stays famous, besides being the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who are not a very good basketball team anymore. And Mark Cuban is basically, kind of, he said, quote, a 10% chance of running in 2020. I think he thinks in his head, if I can speculate, that he says, if Donald Trump can do it, why can't I do it? He sees himself in the same level as Trump does. That's how they all think as businessmen. They all have to have those big egos. So Cuban's basically saying, if Trump can do it, why can't I? I think there's a shot he'll run, and I think he would run as a Democrat, for sure. Tim Ryan of Ohio. He is one of the people that we were talking about earlier in the beginning, first segment, about Nancy Pelosi, saying, that she is not going to win the speakership, and that he would vow to oppose her nomination for speaker. So he's a pretty progressive guy, from what it sounds like, and he is younger than these average Democrat candidates. He's 44, which is the youngest I believe I've seen here so far. Other prominent names, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He's 45, also a younger guy. He said he's quote, seriously considering a bid, although he said that 2024 is more realistic for him. I don't know what that means. Very wealthy guy. He's just like Trump. He doesn't have to do the presidency. because he's very wealthy and he doesn't need the money. He would do it for the good of the country. But, celebrities, I guess, can run for office now that Trump has changed that standard. John Hickenlooper, the Colorado governor. I don't know much about him. I just know he's good friends with John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, who was another potential on here. I don't think Hickenlooper wins because he's 66. He's a little younger or older, I should say. But I don't think he has no motive for working across the aisle with Kasich. And that's what he says. No ulterior motive, quote. John Kasich is the next guy on this list. He says, I will not support Trump. Basically, he's not a fan of Trump. We know that. John Kasich is the governor of Ohio, and he only got, what percentage of the vote? I don't want to screw it up, so I'm not going to give you the number. It was in the single digits of the national popular vote in the Republican primary back in 2016. He ended up getting crushed by Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. And he only won his home state of Ohio. Not a surprise there for John Kasich. Do I think he'll run as a independent? Maybe. Anyone who runs as a Republican is a fool, because if you look at Trump's overall approval amongst the Republican Party, it is very positive. He's got 80 to 90% approval on average from the Gallup polls and everywhere else. He's got about 80-90% approval amongst Republicans, which is historically very high for the average Republican president. So anyone who says, I'm going to challenge him and I'm going to beat him in a primary, you're a fool. You're not going to win. You're going to get crushed. You're going to waste all your money. And the people who donate to you will also waste their money. And Jeff Flake is on the same boat, too, who is also another one on this list. Jeff Flake would never win a Republican primary. And if you run as an independent, you're not going to win in a third-party election. It's not going to happen. Just speaking realistically here. If you're going to run against Trump, you're going to run as a Democrat, and you're going to get crushed in the Democrat primary for having an R next to your name. That's just how it works. Jay Inslee, Washington governor. Again, I don't know much about this guy also, but he is apparently the new chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. Two-term governor, former congressman. He's 67. That means, by me doing my math, he would be about 69, 70 years old by 2021. That's a astounding number, but same as Trump. I think Trump has set the bar a little higher for the age as far as that goes. So now I guess he's not that old as if Trump's 70 or 71 or 72 or something like that. All these Democrats there's some that are older than Trump. Actually, quite a few. So when we get back, we're going to talk to you about the tariffs. I want to get more into that. I'm going to break it down for you a little bit. And Trump's tweets, do they really help his agenda? I want to get into that more. Stay here. You're listening to 107.7 The Bronc and 107.7TheBronc.com. 107.7 The Bronc and 107.7TheBronc.com. Live from the Killarney's Public House Studios. Welcome back, everybody. So now, the tariff effect. What has it really had a negative or positive effect? Now, the goal of the tariffs is really to get rid of the trade deficit with our allies or adversaries, however you classify them, such as the EU and also China significantly. If you go to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, they have a report there, and I'm reading from the New York Times, firing back at Trump in the trade war with tariffs aimed at his base. And if you look at these two maps of how how the Chinese tariffs are having a massive impact on American jobs, they are ironically in the districts that Trump won, in counties rather that Trump won overwhelmingly. We're talking like 70%. If you look at these two maps, if you go online right now to the New York Times, you will see these two maps. Since I'm on the radio, I cannot show you. They are significantly the same. What does that mean? I think that's why the Republicans lost the midterms. I said a couple weeks ago that it was communication. I also say that, but include the tariffs with that. The one map shows the map of where China's retaliatory tariffs threaten American jobs the most. more than 27% impact in the overwhelming districts. If you look specifically in the middle of the country around the Dakotas, the Midwest, more in those areas. And if you go further up to the Northwest, such as Montana, where Trump won overwhelmingly, that's where it's having the biggest impact. Tariffs are not good, for Trump at least. It might get his trade deficit back to he might get his trade deficit back to where to where it should be, but at what cost? The people are suffering. These jobs are going to be lost. The jobs that are being gained that he's touting, are being very. These tariffs are killing his message about jobs. He campaigned on jobs, and these tariffs are doing the exact opposite of what Trump campaigned on. So when you get a chance, go look at the electoral map and the tariff map. You will find that on the New York Times, specifically what I'm reading from. Okay. Speaking of Trump's communication, last thing before we go, the tweets I've been noticing have been more message-oriented than attacking. Now, there've been a couple that I said, no, I don't think that works, because you got to read every tweet and say, does this help with his agenda? And there are a couple that I found out. Now, I'm reading from the past month. He writes, quote, this is one from, I think, very recently, actually. So great that oil prices are falling. Parentheses, thank you, President T. Add that, which is like a big tax cut to our other good economic news. Inflation down. Are you listening, Fed? Okay. Trump is basically saying, thank you, President T. We knew the media was going to look at that and say, okay, that's his new name, I guess, that he's touting for himself. That got your attention, didn't it? Now you're reading the entire tweet to say, what did he say for the rest of it? Persuasion methods at work, like I explained last week. All right, next one that I thought was really good. Quote, really good criminal justice reform has a true shot at major bipartisan support. Mitch McConnell and Senator Schumer have a real chance to do something so badly needed in our country, already passed with a big vote in the House, would be major victory for all, in caps. That quote. That is huge. And you got people like Van Jones who are critical of the president supporting this thing. You got people on the left and right supporting this. Chuck Grassley was there at the signing or the celebration of the criminal justice passing. But now the Senate has to do their job. So I think it will go through, actually. I think it would be great. And it's good that Trump is touting this. And it's good that he's getting the message out to say, hey, support this. It's very important. And come together on this. It shows major bipartisanship on his part. Now to the not-so-good tweets before we go. Quote, so-called comedian Michelle Wolf bombed so badly last year at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that this year, for the first time in decades, they will have an author instead of a comedian. Good first step in comeback of a dying evening and tradition. Maybe I will go, question mark. Okay, so he leaves you wondering if you will go to the Correspondents' Dinner. I don't think it's good to go after the media like that. I don't think it helped his agenda too much on that one. Here's another one. Quote, just watched Wacky Tom Steyer, who I had not seen in action before, be interviewed by Jake Tapper. He comes off as a crazed and stumbling lunatic who should be running out of money pretty soon. As bad as their field is, if he's running for president, the Dems will eat him alive. Okay, that also didn't help his agenda too much. It only feeds the Democrat base too much. That's why I say that. Okay, next week, like I say every week, we don't know what we're going to talk about next week because the news cycle changes so fast. It was a lot to get through this week. So I am glad I did it all in just 60 minutes with you all. The Michelin Man Experience is up next. You are listening to 107.7 TheBronc and 107.7TheBronc.com. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy it.